everyone. Welcome to the podcast that much prefers Olivier Giroud to an on-field review. It's the big man up top.
Hola, Ed.
Hola, Joe. How are you?
Good, you've returned.
I've returned. I've got a new shirt on because it shows off me tan a bit.
And a bit of chest hair as well.
Does it? Oh, gosh. I didn't mean to do that. Yes.
No, it's a lovely shirt.
How have you been doing, Joe?
Yeah, we struggled. Me and Tom have soldiered on through.
Well, I heard the podcast and I thought you did a great job.
Are you happy with them?
I'm very happy with them.
Good.
Yeah. I genuinely sat as a fan and listened and thought it was great. So well done.
Good. And the listening experience was okay?
It was superb.
Good.
A superb listening experience all the way from Mexico City for episode for the first week and then Guadalajara for the second week.
Wow, done the tours. Very exciting.
Done the tours. And let me tell you, they love their football out there, Joe.
Yeah. Has it given you some World Cup excitement?
Oh, massively. Everyone I spoke to was just talking about, they cannot wait for next summer. Because I was sort of wondering if there'd be a bit of, how there was sort of a lot of protests in Brazil before the Brazilian World Cup, and they really didn't want the World Cup happening. I wondered if there'd be a bit of that, but no, absolutely not. In Mexico, let me tell you, they are very much looking forward to next summer's World Cup. And you know what? So am I.
So am I, actually.
We're going to get into some of the international games in a bit, Joe, aren't we?
We are. What an international break that was.
Oh, incredible.
Look, I'm the first to complain when the international break comes around because normally it's boring, right? When there's nothing to play for, not too bothered. But this was exceptional.
There was just stuff going on everywhere. There were little teams managing to get big results against big teams. There were last-minute winners galore, it seems.
Yeah.
So we'll have a look at that. We're also going to look at this week's Premier League action as well. And then also later, we're going to touch on this whole SCR thing, Joe. What's that in a nutshell?
Yes, all this business. It's about new financial rules.
We kind of feel like it's sort of just gone under the radar a little bit. They sort of dropped it into the news at the back end of last week.
They don't want us to know.
Exactly.
So they've not got it past us, have they?
They've not got it past the big man up top. So we're going to have a chat about that and just talk about what it is and how should we react to it.
Well, first, Ed, before we do all of that nonsense, it's quiz time.
Oh, it is. We haven't done one of these in ages, have we?
It's been a while. We haven't done it the last 2 weeks while you've not been here. What's the point if you're not here?
Well, exactly. That's fair enough. What's the point if we're not listening to me floundering and getting an answer wrong?
It's not as satisfying beating someone else, but
fair enough.
But this week I'm going to ask you a question. This is our Bible Ballers quiz. It is just a trivia question about football involving a Bible baller. What is a Bible baller? I hear you ask.
Yes.
It's a footballer who shares their first name with the name of a book in the Bible.
You're James Milners.
You're Dan Burns.
You're Dan Burns, exactly.
You're Micah Richards. Well, this week's question, we're ramping it up a bit.
Oh,
no. Because I think it's been quite an easy start to the season. I mean,
you say that. I'm not doing very well on the easy ones. So.
Do you know the scores at the moment?
I have not got a clue. We'll get producer Tom on that to have a look through the archives.
But good for him to do something this week after 2 weeks of messing about on the microphone.
What's my question, Joe?
Your question this week is name all 5 Premier League clubs that Danny Welbeck has played for. Name all 5 Premier League clubs that Danny Welbeck has played for.
Goodness me, that's gonna be a difficult one. I mean, obviously there's a couple of obvious ones. He's firing them in for Brighton at the moment.
He is.
But I'm gonna have a think about this one, Joe.
I'll give you a bit more time.
Thank you very much. Right, Joe, I want you to... I'm gonna quiz you before we do this Premier League roundup.
Wow, okay.
I want you to tell me what the following have in common. Okay. Onion. Sausage. Cod. Liverpool. And Spurs.
Yeah, we're not doing this.
Yeah, what's this?
We're not. I've been sent the same meme that you've been sent.
Yeah, good. What?
We're not doing this.
What is it? What is it?
Things that get battered.
Yes, that's the one. Fantastic stuff.
You could throw Stoke in there as well.
You could throw Stoke. Well, if you want to call 2-1 a battering, then that's fine. But yeah, shall we start with Spurs getting battered?
Okay.
In the North London derby. Well, just give us the lowdown on this one. Arsenal 4, Tottenham Hotspur 1, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, the Premier League script writers have had their way.
Certainly.
They have Eberechi Eze. It feels like the main story of this game. Got his hat trick.
I know, and he's a really likable guy, isn't he?
So likable. I mean, obviously we love him because of the whole Christian thing.
Every time he's on a camera, every time he's on a mic, he's giving glory to Jesus.
Yeah.
Every time he scores, he's pointing to the sky, which is amazing. But also, just as a general human being, he seems like a lovely guy, doesn't he?
Really nice guy. And it's a shame he plays for Arsenal. But yeah, obviously he was heavily linked with a move to Spurs over the summer. Very nearly happened, and then in the last minute, Arsenal swooped in.
And we'll focus on Arsenal to begin with before we touch on Spurs. But Eze is very much part of why Arsenal look so good at the moment, because they're playing that beautiful football that they've, let's be honest, played for the last 10 or 15 years. But they've got this clinical cutting edge now, which is what they've missed. And Eze is very much a part of that, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. Because you look at these games in the past, if a team is setting up against Arsenal to frustrate them, which is clearly Spurs' mentality going into this game, you don't back Arsenal to find a way. I think they're definitely a team that the last few seasons, if they can't find a way through, they don't have a plan B. But this season they do. I don't think they were I thought they were good yesterday, Arsenal, but they didn't need to be excellent. I think they were a strong 7 out of 10, but they didn't need to raise their game at all. I think Spurs really played into their hands.
Right, okay, so we've got a point of disagreement here. I actually didn't think Spurs played that bad. I think they didn't show up, granted, but I'm very much going down the line of, I thought Arsenal were really that good that they made Spurs look awful. Tell me about, why do you think Spurs played so poorly?
Well, I just think they didn't turn up with a plan. I think they clearly, what Thomas Frank wanted to do, I mean, initially he played with a 3-4-3 with the wing back, so essentially 5 at the back when they don't have the ball. And Thomas Frank just played to frustrate Arsenal and hope they scored a goal. And it just didn't work. I see that double pivot of Palhinha and Bentancur, and there's just no creativity there at all. So if you're trying to get the ball to your forwards, Kudus, Richarlison, there's no one that can do that. And I just think they set up completely wrong. And I think what he's tried to do is pack out that midfield. He's not got creativity there. You're hoping Palhinha, Bentancur act as 2 more defenders to help the back 5. But Arsenal got all their joy in the midfield. And that's not to do with how well Arsenal played. That's to do with how badly Spurs defended. And I just think they didn't have a game plan at all. I
mean, certainly something was definitely off tactically, because Spurs just did not muster any kind of attacks on goal at all. And in fact, Richarlison's goal, his sort of consolation goal, was very much just booting the ball in anger from 40 yards.
Well, yeah, it was a freak goal. They had 2 shots on target all game, one of which was Richarlison's lob. I mean, I'm not sure what David Raya is doing. I don't know why he's out so far, but he's got a habit of doing this. He just kind of is so far out of his goal.
Can I, on this point, just say that I do think something feels very wrong about a player scoring a goal from 40 yards and then sprinting all the way to the goal to pick the ball up, to run it back, to put it on the centre spot.
Yeah.
That's not the kind of goal you do that with.
It should be reserved for a tap-in.
Yes, that's exactly
tap-in only.
Bundled in.
Any goal outside the box, it's too far to run.
It's too far to run. But, fair play, because at that point you're thinking, right, come on, Spurs are going to make a game of this. And they just didn't, did they? They just had very little about them all game.
Well, no, they didn't. And actually, it shocked the Emirates a bit, didn't it? It kind of went quiet for 10 minutes. And you thought, actually, if Spurs do something here, then there's a chance something could happen. But they just didn't.
Now, who do we think can actually challenge Arsenal this year? Because we've spoken a lot about Man City and their woes. Obviously, Liverpool, we'll come on to them. Don't you worry.
We don't have to.
No, we will. Don't worry. But who is it really that's challenging Arsenal for the title? I mean, are you basically looking at Chelsea currently?
Well, it's the only option, I think, at the moment. The only options are Chelsea or Arsenal themselves. Arsenal are going to do themselves out of a title race somehow.
And that's been the thing in previous years, is that when the chance has fallen to Arsenal, when the other teams have not been at their best, and you think, right, it's yours to lose here, they've not capitalised on it. But it feels like they will this year, doesn't it?
It does. That's what they're doing. I mean, traditionally last season, you go into that North London derby, and I think Arsenal get in their own heads about that game. City have slipped up, Liverpool have slipped up, Arsenal need to win. And I think in the past they don't. I think they don't take all 3 points, but they just have such a confidence about them. They back themselves. They know they can create chances. Look, I'm not saying I'm saying they weren't excellent yesterday, but they didn't need to be. They were very good. If they needed to be excellent, I have no doubt they would have been, and they would have raised their game, but they just didn't need to be. And that's a good sign for a title race, is that you don't need to be brilliant every week and you still win 4-1. I mean, the writing's on the wall, surely.
Surely. Well, you'd think so. Chelsea getting a really great away win at Burnley, who've been playing quite well at home. What do you make to this one, Joe? A 2-0 away win for Chelsea.
I mean, it's your classic professional job, isn't it? Your 2-0 win. No thrills. I mean, they didn't have to be brilliant, but great finish by Pedro Neto to kick it off. And Chelsea have good squad depth, and I think that's the kind of thing that has got them through this kind of game.
Yeah, and they have quite a lot of varied threat. I think that's what I'd say about Chelsea is, again, the teams that are going to do well at the top of the table are teams that have an obvious plan B to go to. You know, they've got they've obviously got the really outstanding talented forwards, but they're getting a lot of support from the likes of Cucurella, who loves pushing forward. So yeah, there's a lot of different options, I think, that the Chelsea team brings.
Yeah, and it's their defence and their keeper you're looking at that might let them down. I think you need a top quality keeper, and I don't think Robert Sanchez is that. Their back line isn't settled, a lot of injuries. And this period is really where it counts, right? You've got all the international breaks out the way until March, so you're literally playing now from November all the way through to March, every weekend, probably every midweek, barring a couple. This is where it really counts. This is where Liverpool won the league last season. That run was just completely relentless. And you can see Arsenal doing the same. I don't think you can see Chelsea doing the same because they're just so inconsistent.
Well, we'll see how they get on. But, look, at least they are very much there or thereabouts. Well, Joe, I think we have to move on to Liverpool here.
Sure.
I think I know you're desperate for us to write Liverpool off like we did Man City and just stop talking about them losing.
Yeah, I don't think they're relevant anymore. I think just let them get on with what they're doing.
Yeah. Look, can we talk...
That is a genuine point, though. I think that's exactly what this team needs. And it's not going to happen. Of course, it's not.
No,
Liverpool are always going to be in the spotlight, but this team is.
Well, they are the Premier League champions.
They are. No, of course, no. I'm not disagreeing with you, but what the ideal situation for Liverpool is that they can just go about trying to rebuild this team.
Yeah.
But they're just so low on confidence.
How far off the pace are Liverpool? Because they look well off it. I mean, particularly at the back. I mean, I thought and we'll come on to the game in a bit more detail. But I thought they looked quite good for about half an hour.
Yeah. And
then they conceded a sloppy goal, as they have been doing basically all season, and then just it all seemed to just fall apart for them.
I think that's the crux of the issue is they were great until the goal, and it's a mentality thing, isn't it, that every time Liverpool have gone behind this season they've never come back, and they just don't back themselves to do that. It just completely changes the mood of the squad. Last season they were known for coming back. They went behind quite a few times, but they were able to come back. Slot's in-game management was phenomenal. This season, as soon as that first goal happens, it kind of defines the game. And they just didn't look up for it. They didn't look hungry, and that's a problem.
They sort of look all lost at sea, shall we say? And I think actually, like, it isn't just. I think Konate is getting a lot of stick. I think Van Dijk's not doing himself any favours as well. Granted, a lot of that is probably because Van Dijk feels like he's the only one in that back four at the moment. But you just see the body language of the captain, and you think, gosh, this is not a team that are going to pull themselves out of this anytime soon.
I think Slot would love to rest Van Dijk. He'd love to rest Konate, but he can't. He doesn't have the players to do that. I think the biggest misstep this summer was not securing Guéhi, because I think he's someone you can bring in. Something else that has kind of come to the to the forefront this week is how much they miss Kwanzaa. Look, he wasn't a top elite level defender, but he could do a job. And actually bringing Kwanzaa on for these games, maybe partnering him with Van Dijk or Konate to give one of them that rest could be really useful, and it's just not doable.
Are there questions that need answering from people above Arne Slot in terms of, transfer policy and stuff?
Potentially. I think that could be an issue. I think, there's a sporting director in place that has made some fantastic deals this summer, not only selling players well, but buying these massive players. And yes, Slot's probably feeling pressure to play Isak, because you look at that team sheet and you think, there's no way Isak should be starting that game. If you want to win, Ekitike should be there, and you bring on Isak for 20 minutes because he's coming back from injury. Don't start him. But maybe Slot's feeling pressure to build this team for the future. It very much feels like he's not focusing on winning games now. He's kind of looking, how do we fit these players in for a long-term future, and that's just not standing them in good stead for right now.
Well, Arne Slot needs to take a good hard look in the mirror, but also a look to his opposite, the opposite dugout from this weekend, Sean Dyche. What do we think of that? A masterclass maybe for Nottingham Forest?
Well,
that's a solid 3-0 win at Anfield. You can't turn your nose up at it.
Of course, the last time Sean Dyche won at Anfield, he released a 45-minute masterclass video on YouTube telling everyone how he did it.
Sounds great.
So I think we'll probably have another one of those when he inevitably gets fired from Nottingham Forest. I think we'll see that one come out. But yeah, he's had a good start, hasn't he? I think he's fitting in with Forest well. He's really playing on the Brian Clough thing, and I think we're all a bit fed up about it. But yeah, fantastic win for them.
And actually, the thing is, though, is that to give Dyche credit, he mentioned the badge on the shirt in his post-match interview against Liverpool. And that's what he's got this Forest team doing, is playing together, playing as a unit, and playing for the shirt. And I think Forest fans will just absolutely love that. And, it's that classic, get the players to run through brick walls for you and all that sort of stuff. But, he's got a tune out of them at the moment. Yeah,
and this actually wasn't a vintage Sean Dyche performance, was it? It wasn't everyone behind the ball frustrate the opposition. They scored 3 goals. And actually some of the changes he made throughout the game, he took off a defensive midfielder and put on a winger. He brought Amari Hutchinson on in the 60th minute. And that's not a very Sean Dyche move, but that actually created the 3rd goal because it had more of an outlet. So I don't actually think this was a classic Sean Dyche hoofball tactic. I think he played it really well. He knew how to get at Liverpool, and he nailed it.
Let's move on to the other stuttering giant in the Premier League, Man City, who sadly came a cropper at St James's Park, losing 2-1 against Newcastle. Joe, what did you make of this one?
Well, I think Newcastle have kind of waited for this result. They always show up in big games, and they've been really unlucky this season. There was that Liverpool game at home when they lost in the last minute. There was that Arsenal game, they were unlucky to lose that in the last minute. So I think Newcastle fans were in dire need of a big scalp, and I think they finally got it in this game. The atmosphere was incredible, and they just play so well as a team. Really loving Nick Voltemada up front. I think he is a fantastic signing and playing really well for them.
At the other end, City in meltdown a little bit, Joe. Pep Guardiola confronting a cameraman after this one.
Yeah, I mean, that was a bit strange, wasn't it? I think anyone can go and lose at Newcastle. It's such a hard place to go. And City have not really done that well there recently. Another loss, and I think Pep just starting to feel the pressure. Maybe. I mean, let's be fair. I mean, I think the frustration was there with some potentially iffy referee calls, possibly. Sure.
Unhappy that City were on the wrong end of a penalty call. There was also a tight offside decision as well in there.
It happens to every team, though, doesn't it?
What I would say, again, to be fair to Pep Guardiola, is that he has today, on Monday, as we record, apologised about his confrontation with the cameraman. He says his words are, "I feel embarrassed, ashamed when I see it. I don't like it." After 1,000 games, I'm not a perfect person. I make huge mistakes. And I thought, well, that's fair enough. Look, we all have bad days.
Of course.
Bad day for Man City, bad day for Pep. He's reacted in a very poor way, but he's come out, he's owned it and apologised. That's that's all we ask.
I think these managers feel a lot of heat, and this is something that Jurgen Klopp often did as well, wasn't it? That he'd get very reactive. He'd often do. There was that time he celebrated in front of a fourth official and pulled his hamstring, like against Tottenham. And then he had an interview recently where he spoke about kind of how hot-headed he got as a manager. It's like, that's not me as a person.
Yeah.
But it's just, I'm so competitive that sometimes I do things that I don't mean. And look, come out, apologise, move on, fine.
Absolutely. It's definitely worth mentioning Bournemouth 2, West Ham 2, which was, on the surface, doesn't sound like it would be an absolute thriller, but it really, really was. West Ham coming out 2-0, taking an early 2-0 lead, Callum Wilson getting a couple of goals, and Bournemouth fighting back to get a 2-2 draw. It was a delightful game.
Really good. Callum Wilson coming back against his former club as well. What a storyline that is.
I did hear on Match of the Day them refer to him as an ex-Cherry.
Oh, I don't like that.
No, I know. It just feels a bit strange, but yeah, no, he had a great game, some fantastic goals, and it's a funny one, this one, because I think both teams can feel relatively happy in that West Ham have had all their woes recently, and yet with Nuno coming in, quite clearly. Again, like Sean Dyche, Nuno's getting a tune out of West Ham at the moment. I think had they have won, that would have been 3 wins on the bounce, which they haven't. They haven't achieved that in quite a few years. Bournemouth are always going to be happy with. Well, any team's going to be happy when you go 2-0 down and manage to get a 2-2 draw. So I feel like both teams are going to be fairly happy after this one. Yeah,
smiles all around. I think you give West Ham fans a 2-2 draw at Bournemouth this season. You said that to him a month ago. They'd be delighted with that. And yeah, Nuno's got them playing again. He's got them less reliant on Jared Bowen, I think, as well, which is something that they've struggled with, particularly the last 2 years, having that second kind of outlet. Callum Wilson turning up. I mean, I think a lot of people thought he was kind of done.
And he's sort of half in the England picture again. talking about Danny. Well, I mean, talking about Danny Welbeck earlier, there's no reason to rule it out.
You're right.
There's a lot of talk about Semenyo's future as well, wasn't there? He's obviously been a key part of what's been good about Bournemouth recently.
Yeah, I think it's quite clear this is going to be his last season at Bournemouth. I was surprised he stayed this summer, to be honest, but I think there was some more high-profile departures in Huijsen and Kerkez. But yeah, he got quite a small release clause as well, about 65 million, I think. And I think a lot of teams will be looking at that.
Well, there's a lot of conversation about him potentially even moving on in January. So we shall see. I think it's really important, Joe, that we have a look at the international fixtures, that we kind of missed the back half of the international break with the way our podcast release schedule is. And we missed some big stories, and we've got to touch on it.
Huge.
First of all, Scotland are going to the World Cup. Can you believe it?
What a night that was. It was you just knew that was going to be an incredible game.
Yeah.
I think all to play for, and it did not disappoint at all.
It's my favourite thing that Scotland needing to beat Denmark, and we have a bizarre situation where McTominay scores an overhead kick in the 3rd minute and somehow is arguably 3rd in terms of the list of best goals of the night. Insane evening of football.
Madness, absolute madness. Just loved it. And I was so delighted for Scotland. I thought they were so good in this game, and yeah, 3 fantastic goals. Lawrence Shankland goal that's going to be forgotten forever. That's a pub quiz question, isn't it? Who scored the 4th?
Who scored the 2nd goal?
The 2nd goal that no one remembers.
That nobody remembers. Yeah, which is really sad on a very big night.
I loved the commentary. I don't know if you watched this on BBC, the Scotland.
Yeah.
I mean, look,
shoot.
Yeah, genuinely.
Shoot.
As England fans, we get a lot of stick for how our commentary is so biased.
Oh no, I'm all for it.
I love it. I
great.
love it so much. It was just unashamedly shoot.
And what we know is that Scotland will be great at the World Cup. I mean, I'm not talking about the team; they may be terrible, but Scotland's presence at the World Cup will be fantastic. Their supporters will be an absolute sight to behold, I'm sure, and they're just going to absolutely love their time next summer.
Just a mention as well for Andy Robertson afterwards. I don't know if you saw his interview post-match. Really touching tribute to Diogo Jota. He just said, he was asked how he felt after the Scotland game, after Scotland qualified, and he said, "All I could think about was Diogo Jota. All I've thought about today was him. How we spoke about going to the World Cup together. Tragic circumstances." And I think it just shows that even in the highs of football, this thing is not going to leave them for a while. So I'm just delighted for Andy Robertson that he's got this, and he'll be playing his heart out of the World Cup for Diogo Jota.
Absolutely lovely story. We should also touch on the fact that England have qualified as well. Now, this is obviously less of a story because England had basically qualified weeks ago, but Thomas Tuchel kind of proving a lot of the doubters wrong, and a really insane qualifying campaign. 8 games, 8 wins, 0 goals conceded.
Gosh, it's looking good, isn't it, Ed?
I mean, look.
Did you feel proud to be in one of the host nations as an Englishman?
I did actually take my England shirt with me, and I didn't put it on. I felt like it'd be too on the nose, so it was in my bag the whole time. But it feels quietly good, doesn't it? If you're an England fan, you're going into this World Cup thinking we have got a chance here, genuinely, of winning the whole thing. Yeah,
the thing I've been most impressed with, and I think we knew this about Thomas Tuchel, he doesn't care about the future. Yeah. He doesn't need to. He is fully focused on this World Cup, and he's come out and he said, look, Foden, Bellingham, I think Palmer was the third player you mentioned, can't play together in his team. You go back to the Euros last year, 2 years ago. Southgate was trying to force all these great players into the same team, whereas Tuchel's been like, this isn't going to work. And that's what you want, isn't it? You want a good squad where you got starters, you got finishers, and you're not trying to cram everyone into the same starting lineup. And it's feeling good, Ed.
And Harry Kane has been absolutely revolutionary, hasn't he? In this almost in his new look role in this England team, and that they are really starting to click in lots of different areas across the pitch. So Wales, Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland have all made the playoffs, so they're still in with a chance of going to North America next summer. Crucially, Northern Ireland and Wales can't both go, isn't that right, Joe?
Yeah, they've been drawn on the same side of the playoff draw. These new look playoffs, because of the expanded World Cup, you kind of get put in kind of a group and then a final kind of situation. So yeah, I think Northern Ireland play Italy, and that's going to be a tough game for them. But yeah, quite looking forward to the March international break as well, Ed, because it's gonna be a lot to play for.
Well, it's very crucial, and there's a lot of very big teams still in these playoffs. Italy, Czech Republic, a few more.
And that's agonising, isn't it, that you've got to wait till March?
I know, and interestingly, the World Cup draw is taking place next Friday the 5th of December. And it just feels like there's just going to be these spaces that are just drawn, and we'll see who takes them sometime next March. It's mad
because it's all very confusing. Because
it is.
Northern Ireland have qualified not through the qualification process. They qualified because of how well they did in the Nations League.
Yeah.
No idea.
Who knows? Either way, Joe, we are going to be bringing a special episode next week.
Yes.
So we're going to touch on the World Cup next week. We're going to be looking at the moral issues, the ethical issues. We're going to be sort of, looking to the positives and the negatives about the World Cup in 2026. But also we're going to be doing a bit of a special episode on the day of the draw as well. So keep an eye out for an extra episode in your feed next week.
He's come back from Mexico full of World Cup fever, and all he wants to do is talk about the World Cup.
Absolutely. That's all I'm going to do. Let's do an extra episode.
So Ed, we are going to talk this week about a new rule that has been passed in the Premier League. And like we said a bit earlier on, it feels like this kind of hasn't been highlighted, but there's going to be some quite significant changes to the way a club can run, isn't there?
Yeah, that's right. So you might have heard about this thing that is being called SCR, which is squad cost ratio, and it's coming in to replace PSR, which is all about the sort of the financial fair play and making sure that teams are not just overspending and then go bankrupt. And so what SCR is, crucially, is it's a rule that limits how much a club can spend on its first team squad relative to, and this is crucial, its football revenue. So squad costs, they include things like player wages, transfer fees, agent fees as well, crucially, and also performance bonuses. And football revenue, which is this very specific term that's being used, includes match day income, broadcasting rights, commercial deals, and then any other revenue from football operations. Now, this is replacing PSR, which was based on overall profitability. That's total losses, not just wages. And the idea behind this is that it's to try and tie spending to revenue to make clubs more financially sustainable. And it's supposed to prevent clubs from overspending beyond what they earn, but also, and I think this is again the crucial point, relying too heavily on wealthy owners or loans. Now, how this is going to work in practice is that basically whatever the football revenue of a club is, they are allowed to spend, I believe it's 85% of what that is. If they spend over the 85%, they'll get a fine. But if they spend over 115%, they will then be deducted points.
Wow.
So what that means is that there is a bit of a buffer for teams to spend more than what they're earning. They'll be fined for it, but if they spend way more than what they're earning, there'll be point deductions, an actual sort of an impact on the table, on the league table. Now, the issue with this is that this was voted in by the owners of the Premier League, but it's kind of suspicious, the owners that voted against it and voted for it.
Okay.
So there were 14 clubs that voted in favour of this new measure, and there were 6 clubs that voted against it. And those clubs were Brighton, Brentford, Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, Fulham, and Leeds.
Yeah. So some very well-run clubs.
Very well-run clubs. And here's the sort of the rub of the green. The reason that those specific clubs were against this proposal is that this measure is almost directly only going to affect mid-table but upwardly mobile and ambitious teams.
Sure.
So if you are a big 6 club, likes of Man City, Liverpool, your football revenue is so high that actually this doesn't really affect you. If you're a low revenue club, either the likes of teams that come up, Burnley, etc. So
Manchester United.
Stop that. If you're a low revenue club, then your revenue is very, very low. And actually, what this does is, again, it doesn't really affect you because you were starting from next to nothing anyway. It's the mid-table clubs, the likes of Brighton, Bournemouth, Brentford, that have traditionally done very well with selling players on, making big money in transfers, and then using that money to invest, and have then been upwardly mobile. They're the teams that are going to struggle with this because they have low incomes but have been clever and have been wily. Sure. And they are the ones that are basically going to lose their advantage. So sadly, I think some of the most exciting teams in the Premier League this year, your Brightons, your Bournemouths, your Brentfords, they're the ones that are going to be missing out on this.
Yeah, and I think they're teams that have been smart, they have been run well, and they're going to have to do more of that, aren't they? Like, obviously, I have no doubt that they're already thinking about ways they can do this, but it just seems slightly unfair, doesn't it? This rule works if everyone's on a level playing field.
Yes.
Right? And that is not the case. Essentially, this has been brought in, I think, because some of the bigger clubs have found loopholes in PSR, right?
Yeah.
So you think of Everton, they this year, or maybe it was last season, sold their own women's team to themselves to create revenue. Chelsea sold 2 of their kind of sister company hotels to themselves. So they're not losing the assets, but they're gaining revenue because the whole thing of PSR was, as long as you're making the money, you can spend the money. Whereas calling this footballing revenue, you can't do that anymore. So I think it's good in a way that you're stopping that. At the same time, it's not a level playing field. And I have no doubt that clubs are going to try and find loopholes as well, right?
And I think so, yeah. And I think what this will actually end up doing is that for the fan, for the ordinary fan, what is this going to do? It actually means I think the Premier League is going to become more boring, because it means that essentially they'll end up being these sort of 3 blocks of teams. And we've kind of got that now to an extent, but it's going to entrench those blocks of teams. The teams that are in the top 6 are going to find themselves much more comfortable there. Equally, I think if you're in the mid-table, you're going to find it much harder to break into into that top 6. And equally, I think teams that come up are going to struggle to break out of that sort of that ring fence too. And actually, that's the thing we've talked about in the last few seasons. We've really struggled to get teams coming up from the Championship who've actually been able to fight up near the top of the table. I think there's a very strong possibility that this could help just entrench things further.
Which is a real shame, because this is the first season in a while where it's felt like that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
The way Sunderland have started, Leeds and Burnley have fought a little bit as well. And the timing of this is just a bit like, it just feels like you're solidifying the state of the table as it is.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here, Joe. For the league, they would argue actually that what they're doing here is protecting clubs. Any regulations that they put in are there to protect clubs from crazy owners that want to spend money what they've not got. They want to avoid a Leeds, a Portsmouth of yesteryear.
Yeah.
And I kind of get that. Like that, I understand that. We talk about the Bible a lot on this podcast because we're both Christians. And actually looking at verses like Luke 14, verse 28, it says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough to complete it? That's Jesus talking about, you've got to count the cost of things, right? You've got to plan, you've got to be sensible. Also in Proverbs, in the Old Testament, in Proverbs 21, verse 5, it says, the plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. All of this sort of stuff. The Bible talks a lot about being financially prudent. And actually, we need to be enforcing these kind of rules to make sure that these clubs still exist in 10 years and at least guaranteeing their safety, don't we?
Because it's about stewardship as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is all about stewardship, and the Bible tells us to be responsible with the resources we have. And that's exactly what this rule is doing. I think my issue, though, with it is that, yes, this rule is being brought in to, protect the financial assets of a club and stop that, but it's doing nothing to check in with the owners as people.
Yeah.
Something that we've spoke about a lot here. We've covered Morecambe this season. We've covered Sheffield Wednesday. We've covered Newcastle in the past. There's still no good test to see if these are good people.
And actually, as well, the thing is that if you have an owner who owns a club and is maybe morally questionable, let's say, is like you say, they're still going to find the loopholes anyway.
100%.
They're not going to agree with the spirit
100%.
Of the regulations.
Yeah.
And to bring the counterpoint to what I just said, Joe, as well. Actually, like another thing the Bible talks about is the Bible talks about commending those who are clever with their finances as well.
Sure.
Again, not being nothing illegal or immoral, but actually, if you are clever with your investments, the Bible says that that's a good thing. It talks about that in the parable of the talents as well. And so, I mean, is this really just a conversation about financial matters, Joe, or is this more about sort of just issues of fairness within sport?
I think it encapsulates both elements. I think there's definitely a financial element to this, and we are called to be wise with our money, with our resources. But yeah, I think a bigger thing for me here is the fairness aspect. As we just said, this isn't a level playing field. So what would this mean? What would it mean for this to be fair? Because I guess it depends on your perspective, right?
Well, that's exactly it. Is you could argue. I mean, football is so much about the business, more than just as much as the on-field stuff, isn't it? If you were to invent a game, Joe, you and I were to invent a sport in the studio here. I don't know what that would be. Some variant of tiddlywinks, maybe.
Sure. Yeah, we could do that.
We're starting from level playing fields, isn't it? That's sport in its purest form. Is two people seeing who is better at one thing than the other, or two groups of people, two teams of people. And actually, like when football was invented, none of this was in any kind of consideration. I imagine these conversations came up when the first football club signed somebody who wasn't from that town, and then later on signed a player who wasn't from that country. So there's always been conversations around, well, isn't this supposed to be a level playing field, and what does that actually mean? But I do think there's something quite stark when you're sort of saying, well, you lot have just got more money, and so therefore, you've got more money to play with. It doesn't feel right to me.
There's this verse in Proverbs 11, verse 1. It says, "A false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight." So God really cares about fairness, right?
Yeah.
And this being a level playing field. I think when you think of fairness, you do think of everyone starting on the same place, and that's not true. Fairness doesn't always mean the same, right? And I'm just thinking about in our day-to-day lives, what would it mean if to live in a fairer society? I think something linked to that is justice, right? What would it mean to bring justice to our culture?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Like, you only have to look at look at society and justice within society to know that even in a country that is broadly fair like ours, in a society that's broadly fair like ours, people do not get treated the same. People do not come from the same starting position. But I feel like we have to strive for that wherever we can. We can't just go, oh, well, that's fair enough. That's just, the world's unfair, so deal with it, kids, type thing. I think we should be just striving to create that level playing field wherever we can, knowing that it's almost an impossible task, but trying where possible to make sure that, as it says in that verse, that we're playing by the same weights, that we're measuring things by the same weights, because that's all we've got to go off, isn't it, really?
And it's looking out for those that maybe aren't on the same level as you, right? Maybe you're thinking, oh, but I've got to this place because of what I've done and like what I've achieved, and you're looking at other people in your community maybe, or your church, that maybe haven't got as much of you, have come from a less privileged background, and you're thinking, how can I help that person in the position that I am today?
And just look at, like, it comes back to the whole sort of the Man City versus Man United thing. Man City got all their success through crazy investment, short-term, lots of money, overnight became a big success. Manchester United did it in a similar way, but over a much longer period. They became very successful globally, and that allowed them year upon year to build and amass insane resources. But the playing field was never level in either case, was it really? And I think just whatever we can do to level those playing fields in football, but also in society, I think is a really good thing.
Well, Ed, you've had enough time now.
Oh, gosh. Forgot about this.
Straight back into the deep end.
Yeah, I completely forgot about this. I can't even remember the question. What's the question?
Well, I'll be kind and I'll tell you the question again.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
I would please like you to name all 5 Premier League clubs that Danny Welbeck has played for.
Okay. Are they all in the Premier League now?
They are not.
See, this is it.
There is one that is not. The rest of them are.
Okay.
Run me through the obvious ones.
Brighton.
Yes.
Manchester United.
Yes.
Arsenal.
Yes.
And they are my obvious 3.
They're the big 3.
So there's 2 more. Danny Welbeck. Danny Welbeck, he feels very... he feels very Fulham to me.
Okay.
I don't know if he is or not. Also feels like he could be a Bournemouth, but I'm just wondering if that's a Brighton thing. I think
it could be. They are the same club, aren't they?
I'm just thinking South Coast. Yeah, exactly. I also, for some reason, I have Birmingham City in my head, and I don't quite know why. So I have Birmingham City and I have Watford.
Okay.
So I'm going to go for Fulham and Watford as my other two.
Okay. Well, I'll run you through the answers.
Okay.
Brighton.
Correct.
Arsenal.
Correct.
Manchester United.
Correct.
Watford.
Oh, here we go.
Sunderland.
Oh, stop it.
He was on loan to
he was.
Sunderland in the 2010 season.
No, I think I now you say it, of course,
you
but
can
no.
imagine it.
It was nowhere in my consciousness.
26 appearances, 6 goals. Not bad.
Are you going to give me half a point?
No, I'm not. No.
Oh, that's a shame.
Why would I do that?
Well, because, I did quite well for me.
Yeah, but the question was all 5.
Yeah.
Spirit of fairness, Ed. It's
Spirit
a level
of
playing
You're
field.
absolutely right. Yeah, it's not good. We don't give half points on this show.
No, we don't.
Except when we do.
Exactly that.
Well, that's all we've got time for, Joe. Have you had fun?
I have, Ed. It's so nice to have you back.
Yeah.
No shade on producer Tom.
No, I mean,
but he's doing very well with his footballing knowledge.
He certainly is.
So we did just learn that he's never heard of U2.
I know, which clearly wasn't watching the Premiership.
He wasn't
back in early 2000s. He probably wasn't born.
I don't
then.
think he was born then.
What year were you born, Tom?
2004.
2004.
Goodness.
Gosh, that's upsetting. But anyway, thank you very much for having me back, Joe, and thank you for listening to the Big Man Up Top this week. If you want to get in touch with the show, please ping us an email to podcasts@ucb.co.uk. Make sure you follow, subscribe, and give us good reviews and all that lovely stuff, and help us to get the word out. And make sure you tell your friends. There will be a new episode next Tuesday, won't there, Joe?
There will, and Friday.
And Friday.
Next Friday, not this one.
Yeah, not this Friday. Yeah, so next Tuesday there'll be our regular show, and then we're going to have another World Cup special next Friday as well.
See you then.
See you then.